Hello. Hi, and welcome to the webinar. It's so awesome to be here and have you guys join. I'm just going to wait another couple of minutes just because a few people are still trickling in, but afterwards we can get stuck in. But I'll be right back. Okay, with that, I think we're ready to jump in. For those that are here, thank you so much for hopping into this week's Getting Started webinar. Now, if you've been with us for a little while, this webinar is just going to cover the basics of setting up a SafeFood Pro account. However, as you would know, there is quite a lot to kind of jump into and delve into. And so you might learn some tips and tricks along the way. Now, if you are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Joshua and I run support for SafeFood Pro. So I've worked with a lot of our customers over the course of a few years. Um, Now, again, the main focus of this webinar is getting started, setting up a SafeFood Pro account and making sure that you understand how to customize it to match your own needs as a food business. And of course, what we want to do is kind of set up an account that is being fully compliant, and every business's needs are slightly different. So keep that in mind as we go throughout the webinar. I would also like to bring your attention to the chat and the Q&A. So throughout this webinar, if you have any questions or have a specific use case that you're kind of unfamiliar with how to implement into SafeFood Pro, please let me know. And also, don't be shy. I am just here in a room. So if you want to say hi, introduce yourself, that would be amazing. And just makes, yeah, don't be shy. Don't be shy. I'm here to help in whatever way I can. Now, throughout this webinar, I'll be doing a live demo of SafeFood Pro, and we'll kind of go through the actual setup process, the things that you need to do to get started with SafeFood Pro. As I mentioned, we'll have a Q&A section at the end. If you have some more difficult questions that I want to spend a bit more time on, we'll cover that in the Q&A section. And then I'll point you towards some uh, resources that you can use to kind of get a bit more familiar with SafeFood Pro. But with that all said and done, let's talk about SafeFood Pro. So what we have in front of us at the moment is the admin console. This can be accessed from your browser of choice. You can access it from our website, or you can go directly to my.safefoodpro.com or .nz, depending on whether you're in New Zealand or not. We are, of course, a New Zealand-based business, and we built SafeFood Pro in New Zealand. But for international users, you want to use .com instead. Then on the right-hand side of the page, we have the mobile app, which is used to kind of complete your forms and checklists on a day-to-day basis. It's where you actually do the data entry for your forms. It's basically the replacement of your paper in the kitchen or front of house. Now, the app can be downloaded on Android tablets or Apple iPads and iPhones and such. And that's kind of where you go to do that. Now, throughout the webinar, I'll mainly be talking about the admin console, but we might cover some app stuff as well, but it's pretty straightforward. When you're setting up, you'll be mostly using the admin console. Now, let's talk about what we're actually seeing here at the moment. This is the dashboard. it's kind of a way to get a bird's eye view of the activity that's happening in your account at the current moment. So, for example, you can see the completion rates of your daily, weekly, or monthly forms. You can see the status of various certificates and permits that you've added into your account, as well as maintenance. Um, and so this is kind of a good place to get a quick view of what's happening in your account. If you want to change anything, you'll actually want to go into the various little pages within your SafeFood Pro account to amend those, expired resources, for example, or forms. Now, when you're setting up an account, what you'll want to do is actually first head to the My Business page, which is basically a business hub for the information in your account. And we draw this information from the setup wizard that you complete when starting an account. It's that long questionnaire that goes through sort of what your business does in terms of food safety. And we grab all that information and we pull it through to this page. Now, when you set up an account, it's really important that you go through and double check your answers because it's just good practice. It's good to have accurate information in this page. A couple of highlights, though, are the the last and next verification date. These are actually quite important because not only does it kind of just let you know and you can log this information for future reference, but if we go back to the dashboard, based on those dates, we kind of give you a little countdown that you can reference and get an idea of, when your verification is in terms of how many days from now. And also, these dates give us an indication of when we need to help you because we have a lot of resources we can provide to you based on these verification and audit dates. Now, if you're from out of New Zealand, you might be noticing I'm saying verification or it says verification here. That's just the terminology we use. But it's audit works as well, or inspection. So I'll kind of use them interchangeably throughout the webinar. Just keep that in mind. Now, again, go through this list, make sure everything is accurate to what you need. And then down here, we have the food plan questions summary. Now, what this is it's a list of all the questions that you answered when setting up your account. Go through this list, make sure it's correct, and reference to it if need be. If you make any changes, oh, one last thing. When you're setting up an account, be sure to update your logo. Not only does it kind of make things look quite nice in the account, it also gives us a logo to print onto your reports when you export them down the line for inspection, audit, verification, etc., etc., etc. Okay, next up we have the settings page. This is kind of where you go to kind of configure a few of the settings within your account, namely user groups. This is a paid feature for anyone on our professional plan and upwards. Basically, what it allows you to do is segment the different documents within your account. So, for example, if you have front of house specific forms, such as specific cleaning checklists that only apply to those in the front of house team, you can create a front of house user group. Or if you have management forms that aren't applicable to, front of house, you can segment the forms within your account so that it basically declutters people's logins. So, for example, if I was in the mobile app and I was in front of house, maybe I would only see, a delivery form or a cleaning checklist rather than all of these here. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we go into the actual form building process. But for now, let's go to the next section. Now, again, there are various settings that you can set up. For example, if you'd like to receive a summary email every week, day, month about the activity within your account, you can enter an email address in here, click enter, and then every week, day, month, whichever you select, you'll receive an email. Very cool. Now, let's talk about the food plan details page. Now, if you're an international customer or you're out of New Zealand, this will be called the plan page. But basically what it is it's basically a printable document with all of your food plan details, again, pulled from that wizard that you completed when setting up your account. Again, go through this page, make sure it's actually relevant to you. You can upload a floor plan. Um, Now, the most important part here is that you can actually print or email this off to your auditor, verify it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if they need to see this information in one big document. So rather than mailing them, a bit of paper, you actually have this nice document with all of your business food safety information intact. Now, if you're looking at your answers on the, organization business details page, and you're like, oh, actually, this is incorrect. I I mucked it up. What do we do then? What you can do is you can go to the food plan details page and click edit food rules. This will run you through that setup wizard again and kind of ask you those questions again so you can give amended answers or adjust the templates in your account, which I'll talk a little bit more on in a bit. Okay, now if you as a business have days that you aren't operating on kind of like a one-off basis, so not like, you don't work Mondays every week. It's more like you're not working over Easter or you aren't operating over the Christmas break, those one-off days that you aren't operating, you can add those dates into here. So just to illustrate this, uh, I'm going to actually go through and delete some of these. It's not super relevant, all these old dates. So for example, if I wanted yesterday to be a close date, I click add dates, select 16th of April, and then boom, that gets added to the list. Now, when I refresh the app and we log back in and I go back to the 16th, we can see that there are no forms to complete on this day. So what this does is it cleans up your reporting just a little bit and ensures that your team aren't prompted to complete forms on days that you aren't working, so that there aren't any gaps in your reports. So really good to keep in mind when setting up your account, you want to add these close dates into the system. Okay, now next up we have the message logs page. Basically, this is just a list of all the material that SafeFood Pro is sending out to your tablets, to your various email addresses in the system. If you're set up to receive notifications for different sorts of alerts, this is the place where you can go to check that the system is actually sending these out. And you can also reference this when it comes to just understanding what's kind of happening in the account. But beyond that, it doesn't have much purpose. Now, the next thing you want to do when setting up your account is go to the staff and users page, which is where you can actually add in the people to your account. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, say hi. Yeah, okay, staff and users, this is where you add the people into your account. They're basically staff records or like uh, an attendee list almost. Um, and it's really important that you set people up with access to SafeFood Pro that need it so that they complete different checklists and stuff and are able to log different forms against their name. Now, for reference, I'm going to complete a test form just to show you kind of what happens and the way that this is set up to work. So for example, if I'm completing a daily pest check, no pests, not applicable. Okay, cool. I'll click Save Final to save the form. And then we get this big list of names. And this is pulled from the staff and users page. Without your name in this list, you are unable to log a form as completed by yourself, which is why it's really important to add your name into this list. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but I'll get into it. And then I'll select my name, enter my PIN. Well, nice. I remember. Second try is pretty good for me if you've seen other webinars. Okay, cool. And then it's completed against my name. Now, to set up a user or a staff record, just click the green plus icon. Now we're going to get very familiar with this green plus icon because it's how you add anything into the system. The green plus icon is like, I can't think of a funny analogy, but you get the picture. You can add a staff member without an account, which means that they just pull through to that list of names, or you can add a staff member with an account. What this means is they can use their own email address to actually log in on their own phone or tablet. Or you can give them permission to go onto the computer and make amendments and edit forms and set up the account. So that's kind of like the main difference. A staff without a record, without an account, can't actually log in with their own phone. With an account, they can. But both people turn up on that list of names. So it's kind of what most people do is they click with an account and set up a tablet. So you create what is basically a tablet login with an email address. So, tablet at Sophie's Cafe, for example, enter a password, create a user role. We have 6 different user roles that you can select from, kind of going top to down in terms of the amount of access that you have. So, for example, admin, they can actually log into the account on their computer and on the phone, complete forms, and also edit forms and export reports and such. And then we have external verifier, which allows a verifier or an auditor to log into your account, but they can't edit anything. They can't make any changes. They can't complete forms. We actually have a document you can view to look at these different user roles. But for the tablet, we'll just select tablet, and that just means they can log into the mobile app and complete forms. Pretty easy. Go ahead and add a first and last name. However, because it's just a tablet, we'll just set it up as tablet login. Oops. There we go. Now, if this tablet login is specific to front of house, and only the people in your front of house will be logging into this specific tablet, you can select front of house from the user groups, which we set up, in the My Business page. And this ensures that this tablet is only assigned the forms that are assigned to front of house logins and forms. Very good. Now, once we're ready to go, we'll click save. Now, that email address that you input will receive an email, kind of prompting them to log into the account with just a bit more information about what to do. And lastly, when adding a user, you can set up emails and push notifications for all of these different kind of events. So if someone completes an incident form and you want to be alerted via email, then we can click that. Or if it's just on the device, we can click that. And all of these different ones here. So if you want to be alerted for certificates expiring, click that. Easy peasy. Very easy. Okay. Now, once you've set up a user, what you can do is you can also upload certificates or permits against them. So if Simon Jackson over here has a first aid certification, we can upload that into the system and also assign it an expiry date so that we can be alerted to update this when the time kind of comes around. So to do this, we just go over to resources. Look, someone's already uploaded their HusUp training. That's great. We can click the green plus icon, add a certificate or permit as a resource, and then go through and add the details, upload the file from your computer, and add in the expiry date as well. Now, if you remember when we were talking about the dashboard, you can kind of you can get a bird's eye view from the dashboard of the various certificates and permits that have been added into the account and when they expire. The same goes for equipment and all of that. Now, once everybody has access to the account, you're basically off to the races. But what we need to do is actually add in our suppliers so that we can complete, incoming goods reports and forms. Now, we have a couple of ways to do this. The first way is kind of the manual way. You can upload them one by one by clicking the green plus icon and selecting add a new record. And then from there, you just add in, the supplier type, so either goods or services. Goods suppliers will pull through to your delivery forms and such, whereas services suppliers will pull through to your maintenance forms for logging, when a fridge was maintained, for example. Now, you may notice that in this list of information, there are quite a few fields that you're prompted to complete. Now, the good news is you don't actually need to add in all of these. Just look for the ones with the little asterisk. These are the required fields. Anything else is not mandatory. But if you don't complete, these two up here, we won't let you save it. So just keep that in mind. Okay, very good. And again, if you have any certificates or permits or documents related to this supplier, you can upload it as a resource against their item. So go ahead, you can add it as just a generic file. That means that there's no expiry date to it necessarily. It's just kind of information. Then you have certificates or permits, which you can assign a expiry date to and be alerted for when it's about to expire, or you can just add it as a link. So a link to their website and such. And all of this information is accessible from the mobile app as well. So if you need this information to be accessible across the different platforms, add it as a resource, and then it's just within the same one platform, and you don't need to kind of rummage around. Everyone knows where it is. That's kind of what we want. That's the end goal. And once we're ready, we'll just click save, and then it gets added to the list. Now, to illustrate this, let's enter our receiving a delivery form on the mobile app. Did we receive a delivery today? We did. Supplier name, and then boom, any suppliers that I add into this list will pull through to the mobile app so that I can log deliveries nice and easily without needing to write everything out. That's kind of the main, sorry to go on a tangent, but this is the main goal of setting up your account. You want to reduce the amount of work. So rather than needing to type everything out, write everything out, SafeFood Pro allows you to create automated answers for different food safety checklists and just reduce the net amount of work that needs to be done. That's the end goal with setting up the account. Okay, wow, what a ramble. If you ever need to delete or edit any of these records and such, all you need to do is click the pencil icon or the little bin icon. Wow, I forgot to mention bulk uploading. If you have a whole lot of suppliers that you don't want to manually upload one by one, what you can do is actually click bulk upload records. And what this gives you access to is our supplier template and or any kind of template, which is just like an Excel spreadsheet file with all the different fields. And you just kind of fill in the fields as you need to. And then save that file and upload it into the system. And then voila, you get your list or semi-automatically. But it's a lot easier than manually uploading every single one by one by one. Great. Okay. Now you'll notice this icon appear every now and again. Basically what it does is it gets that CSV file with all the information intact, and it kind of pulls through to your computer. So if for whatever reason your business is closing or you're ending your SafeFood Pro account, but you want to export this list of suppliers, that's the way to do it. Boom, and it downloads it. Very nice. Now, the next part here is equipment. Now, this is a really vital part of the process because if you complete temperature checks, you need to add in the equipment that you're doing temperature checks for. So if you have a whole bunch of fridges and freezers and such that you need to do temperature checks for, you need to add them into the system. Now, what that kind of means is, wait, let me show you. So let's find our fridges and freezers. They're all down here. Basically, we've set up this temperature check form to look at this list of equipment and pull out any fridges and freezers. So you actually don't need to update the template necessarily. You just need to upload the fridges and freezers into your account, or hot holding if you do hot holding, and that will pull through to the list. So if I click on temperature checks on the mobile app, we'll see, voila, everything's there automatically. You don't actually need to update the template. The process for uploading fridges, equipment, anything is very easy. You can either bulk upload or add them manually, one by one by one. Into the name, the equipment category. This is the most important field because it dictates whether or not it actually goes through to the temperature check for fridges and freezers. So if you do want it to turn up there, click freezer or refrigeration. And then when you save it, it'll pull through automatically. Now from there, we also have kind of like maintenance features to kind of remind you for various aspects of maintenance. In New Zealand, it's mandatory to do maintenance for your fridges and freezers. So you can select from your suppliers list of services suppliers, as I talked about. You have goods and services suppliers. Any services suppliers will pull through to here. So you can just select it. And then you need to select the frequency interval, which is basically just how often do you want SafeFood Pro to remind you to do maintenance. Most people do like once per year, or maybe if you want to do it, you know, every 6 months, that's the way to do it. Now, when we select refrigeration, what we're also determining is what are the safe ranges for this temperature check, for this piece of equipment. In New Zealand, that's between 5 and 2 degrees Celsius. However, you can adjust this to kind of match your own process. For example, it's okay for fridges to be under 2 degrees. That's okay. Sometimes we get people coming through and being like, I can't enter 1 degrees. I can't enter 1 degree Celsius. Why is that? This is the reason. You actually need to adjust this manually if you want that to be the case. Or we can bring this down to 0 so that you can enter below 1 degrees. Very good. Yeah, so that happens automatically, this kind of temperature threshold. If you selected freezer, that temperature range would change yet again. Again, it can be colder than 22 degrees. That's still safe technically. So go through, adjust those as you need. Now, wireless monitoring. If you're unfamiliar, SafeFood Pro actually provide hardware for temperature monitoring for your fridges and freezers. Now, I won't go too much into detail on this just because it's a whole different thing. But if you have sensors with us, you can select or you can assign that sensor ID, which is on the bottom of the unit, to the specific fridge that you're setting up. And then you can get readings, warnings, and such for that sensor. Just make sure you click sensor active, and you're good to go. And again, I'm just going to say resources. It's a really cool tool. If you don't want to be scrounging around for all of your data all over the place, it's really good to have these PDFs and documents within the same system so that you know exactly where everything is in terms of health and safety. Yeah, okay. Now let's move on to forms. Forms are the templates, the health and the food safety templates that you actually complete from the mobile app. This is where there is most crossover and is what your team or yourself will be interacting most with SafeFood Pro. Based on the questions that you answer in the setup wizard, we provide you with a kind of a standardized list of templates based on your answers. So, for example, if you stated that you do hot smoking, for example, we'll provide you with the specialist forms for that. Or if you need to do pH checks for rice, we will provide you with some of those templates. That said, it's really important that you go through this list when you set up your account and make sure that they're relevant to you. We will not provide you hot smoking forms if you don't need them. So, for example, um, just make sure that you don't have any uh, shish kebab forms in here. If you find forms that aren't relevant to you in terms of your cooking forms, what you'll want to do is actually head back to My Business, go to the plan page, and edit those food. Oh my goodness, edit those food rules to actually match what you do, because there's a good chance you might have missed one of the questions or something along those lines. That's crucial. Making sure that the forms page is relevant to you is so key, because this is the food safety. This is the proof that you're following, regulation and such. With that said, you can also customize these forms to basically be what you need them to be. I would say that there are two different categories for the forms in here. We have your business practices and business procedure, like cleaning, daily operation, all that kind of stuff. And then we have the cooking forms. What I would recommend doing is going through those kind of procedural forms, like cleaning checklist, beginning of day, staff checklist, training, all that kind of stuff, and making sure that you've customized them to match what you're actually doing on the day to day. So, for example, cleaning checklists, we've provided you with this random template. Not random. We put a lot of time into it, but some of the questions in it might not apply to you. You can click the pencil icon against any of these forms to open up the editor and make adjustments to the schedule. If it doesn't need to be done daily, you would rather it be weekly, you can select that and make it make sense. Or if you guys do it daily, but you don't operate on Sundays, you can turn off Sunday to make sure that it doesn't turn up on Sunday on the app. It's really that simple. Or if you need to do a cleaning checklist twice a day, you can click up here. Let's do a 10 a.m. check as well. This might be more relevant for like temperature checks and stuff. I know that in Australia, you need to do, I believe it's 3 a day. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the chat below, of course. Um, and yeah, so let's go back to building the actual form and looking at the questions and the checks and such. Down here in the form design section, which by the way, we're updating this entire thing to kind of be a bit more user friendly next week. So look forward to that. It's going to look very different to what it looks like right now. Let's find this form on the mobile app and just kind of compare and contrast which questions are turning up and how. So cleaning daily cleaning tasks, that's this one right here. Boom. Now we can see how all of these different elements kind of interact with each other. Within the Safe Food Pro kind of form designer, you have you have a couple of different kinds of elements. For one, you have the instruction text, like this right here, with just a title for what you're explaining and then the actual explanation. That turns up like this. Your staff can tap on it and view the instructions as needed, if that is the case. Or for cleaning checklists, if you guys already understand what you're doing, you can delete these with the little bin icon. There we go. Now, the second element within Safe Food Pro Forms is the actual question. So the thing that is being answered and the task that is getting checked off looks like this. So you have the cleaning, you have the prompt, no, the question text, sorry. Then you have the prompt, and then the answer type, which determines how your staff or yourself will be interacting with that question. So, for example, we can adjust this to be, a short text. If for some reason you're like, I need an explanation for exactly how you're doing this, which, let's be real, no one's doing that. And yeah, for the most part, people make this a checkbox. Okay, and then down in the right-hand corner here, we can make sure that this question needs to be answered before someone can save the form. So, for example, on the mobile app here, at the bottom we have 0 out of 8. This indicates how many required questions are in the form. So in this case, we have 8 different required questions that need to be answered, but we can turn this off if if it's not super relevant all the time. Now, to actually build out the form and kind of make it your own, what you can do is either just adjust the text here and delete stuff, add it in again, or you can use this little toolbar down at the bottom of your screen. Now, please bear in mind, this is completely dependent on how zoomed in your page is. If I zoom out my page, it pops up on the right over here. So click question to add a question, add in the question text, adjust the answer type to make sense for you. Again, we have like 30 or so answer types to select from, but the most common ones are towards the top, so don't worry too much about that. Or we can add in a collapsible panel, which are these yellow things that we're seeing here that contain instructions. So if I wanted this specific check to be, you know, please clean the bins. And then I can have how to clean bins, hot soapy water, yada, yada, yada. Very good. Now, one really good tip that I learned quite early on was that if you're building a form that's primarily just check boxes, there's not a lot of variation in terms of the answer types. What you can do is actually click this little duplicate this question button. And what this does is it looks at all the different, it just duplicates it. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. It grabs all the settings and it pulls it to a new question. And then what you can do is actually just erase the question text, add in a new one. The bench tops. I think that's already in here. So that's how to, customize a form. Again, I wouldn't get married to this layout. It's literally changing next Monday. So please keep that in mind. It's going to look very different, but a lot better, I promise. Okay, so that is the form builder. The main takeaway here is please look through this entire list of forms and make sure that it's relevant to you. That's probably the most important part here. If you have any questions about form building and the different answer types that we provide, how to actually customize forms, how to create a brand new one from scratch, you can always ask the support team. So click that little help button down at the bottom. We'll kind of look at the page and give you some recommendations for what to read and look at, but you can also ask us directly. Very good. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about resources, which is kind of the last side of things. If you have documents that you want available in your account, such as an allergens document, for example, with all of your food items, what allergens are present in them, this is the place I would recommend to upload that. Allergens is probably the most common one, but a few other options come to mind, like training documents. If you have modules and stuff you want your staff to run through, you can add it into the system. Now, from there, we actually have a resources page on the mobile app, which you can reference and actually look at those training documents or allergens documents. So to do this, we just click the menu icon or the little hamburger buns at the top left-hand corner, and then go down to resources. Now from there, we have kind of provided you with a list of default resources. This is just for New Zealand customers. These are our kind of regulations and such. Um, but any allergens documents, training documents that you add into your account will be present in this list. Okay. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Any resources that you've uploaded against your supplier or, specific pieces of equipment can also be accessed from, the suppliers page or equipment page. So for example, I can't remember, I think it was Steve, or was it Simon? I think it was Simon Jackson. Now, to actually go in and make adjustments or view resources, you need to determine who that you actually have the access to do so. So I'm going to click my name, and because I'm like an admin in the account, I can go in and view attached resources and all of that kind of information like you can from the mobile app. So it's kind of a level of accountability or restriction in there, but just bear that in mind. Okay. Now I wanted to talk just very briefly about resources and allergens. So the best way to add allergens into SafeFood Pro, because I understand that that's quite a hot topic at the moment, is I would recommend opening up a spreadsheet, making a very easy list of your food items, what allergens are present in them from your menu, turn that into a PDF, just export it as a PDF and re-upload it into SafeFood Pro as a PDF. And then it's in the system. If you do then make changes to your allergens in that your menu, sorry, you can delete the resource, upload a new one. It's pretty simple. Of course, let me know if you have any questions on that. That's the way I would recommend it, but I'm always happy to hear other ideas. Now, the next part here, just on that documents note, is the certificates and permits page. Any certificates or permits that you add into the system will be viewable from here. You can't make adjustments to them, but you can view the expiry date and who it belongs to, whether it's a staff. I think I think it's like a little truck if it's a supplier. Quite good. Um, yeah, now if you want to make adjustments to the actual resource or certificate, you need to go back to staff and users, find Simon in the list, click the pencil icon, and make those adjustments that way. Good. Now, to end on quite an easy note, we have this food items page. Now, what this is it's basically like an autofill list of the different food items that you cook. Um, in regards to kind of proving your cooking method. For reference, in the app, we have these cooking method forms. Now, by default, you need to kind of type out the name of the food item that you're cooking to complete the form. But if you add to this food items list and just add in your items from the jump, you don't need to type them out when you're completing the form. Actually, it just pulls through like that, just a big list of the different food items in your account. And again, to do this, we're going back to the trusty green plus icon. We just click on that, add new food item, name, category. Ingredients is probably the one I'd go for if I were you. Pretty good. I don't know how food items can be under training, but we don't want to focus on that now, do we? And then you can always delete and add them in. If they aren't relevant to you. Now, that is SafeFood Pro. I'm not going to cover reports and such today just because we're kind of pressed for time and it's a whole nother thing in itself. If you do want to witness the greatness of our report suite, you can actually watch next Wednesday's webinar as well, which will be covering preparation for verifications and audits. So if you want to get a bit familiar with how our reporting suite works and how to be prepared for these verifications and audits, let me know and I can just sign you up from my end. It's pretty easy. But yeah, that is SafeFood Pro. I think I'm going to jump over to The Q&A section. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. If you have any questions, type them out, let me know, and we can go from there. Okay, that does it. That does it. Hey, I just want to say a quick thank you for hopping in. And if you want to learn more, you can actually go to our video education center, which is just on our website. Let me know if you would like to register for the verification and audits webinar next week. Otherwise, I would highly, highly recommend jumping into our form building webinar, which will kind of cover the new layout and everything. It's very different. Um, so if you want to learn about that, it's a brand new feature. It's very cool. And then we have different videos and stuff that I and Sophie have made. That's kind of my main job is just like making videos and webinars and such. So it'd be really cool if you check them out. Let me know what you think. You are so welcome. I'm glad you found it humorous and informative. I like that informative is second. That's my goal in life. Okay, thank you for um hopping in. Oh no, I'm too exposed. Okay, goodbye. Thank you. I'll see you guys around.